Populations of plants and animals are going extinct about 1,000 times faster than the species themselves. These populations are going extinct because of a loss of genetic diversity. The types of genes that an individual has are what decide if it will be able to adapt and survive to its environment. Now, if a population has many different types of genes, then it has many more chances of surviving and adapting to future environmental changes such as climate change and sea level rise. This means that genetic diversity greatly increases the probability that a population will be able to survive in the future. However, current conservation practices tend to only conserve tracts of habitat without any prior knowledge of its importance to a species' genetic diversity. Until conservation includes genetics in its decision-making, it will not get to the root of this extinction problem. Landscape genetics offers a way to help conservationists incorporate genetics into their decisions. Plants and animals travel between different populations, much like we travel on planes between different countries. In fact, well-connected, genetically diverse populations are a lot like international airports. Much like international airports get a constant influx of different cultures and ethnicities, well-connected populations get a constant influx of different genes from other populations. Landscape genetics figures out where these international airports are in the habitat and what about the habitat keeps them well connected to other international gene ports in the habitat. In this way, landscape genetics shows us what habitat we need to conserve to make sure that populations keep their genetic diversity. My research looks at the landscape genetics of 3 species in the Gulf of Mexico salt marsh: a grass species, a fiddler crab, and a rice rat. Now, these 3 species are very different from one another and travel across their habitat in different ways. Comparing the patterns of genetic diversity between them will reveal a general genetic pattern that can be applied to most other marsh species, allowing us to preserve genetic diversity in the entire ecosystem rather than a single species. I will also be looking at how sea level rise is going to affect genetic diversity in the future. Using landscape genetics, my research will show us how to preserve the salt marsh so that it can withstand the future environmental changes that it will inevitably face. The salt marsh is an incredibly important ecosystem and also an important cultural component of the Gulf Coast. The local community of the Gulf Coast is really interested in the type of conservation that's going on in their marsh. I encourage all of you to do the same. Learn what conservation is being done for the species and natural areas that you love. Because if we are going to change conservation and save our Earth and the species within it, then we all must play a role.